Hi everyone, welcome to Must Read Monday. My name is Dabney. I'm the young adult librarian with the Twin Lakes Libraries and I use they, them pronouns. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about werewolf books to tie in with the summer reading club theme of Tales and Tales. So I love werewolf books, love werewolf movies, love werewolf TV shows, Teen Wolf. It's great. So anyways, one thing I think is special about werewolf books and stories is you almost never find, one that's the same as the others because everyone kind of has their unique interpretation of werewolves, how they behave, like what their powers are, what their weaknesses are, all that good stuff. So I can guarantee any of these things you pick up from this video today, no two werewolves are going to be alike, and I think that is great. So first I'm going to start with some books you may have heard of, then we'll talk about some graphic novels, and then we'll talk about books you might not have heard of. So first up, of course, we have the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. This is book 2, New Moon, because book 1 was checked out. But in this book, Bella Swan moves to Forks, I believe it's Washington, might be Oregon, and she ends up becoming involved with the supernatural community there that no one else is really aware exists. So there's the vampires, the Cullen family, and then there are the werewolves. So in this story, she becomes really good friends with Jacob Black and his werewolf pack. So this is kind of like standard werewolves. The vampires are not very standard, but check it out. Of course, those books were adapted into movies. Then we have City of Ashes. This is book 2 of the Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. Book 1 was checked out. These books were also adapted into one movie, which was The City of Bones, and then there is the Shadowhunters series on Hulu. And in this, werewolves, there aren't really any main characters who are werewolves, but there are a bunch of supporting characters who are. In this series, Clary Frey is the main character, and she kind of accidentally stumbles into the supernatural world that exists within Brooklyn and New York City and comes to realize this is a global thing, that vampires, werewolves, fae, warlocks, angels, demons, all of those beings exist in her world, and you have the Shadowhunters who are there to kind of keep these supernatural beings from interfering with the humans because the mundane humans cannot know. So yes, it's I really like it a lot, and I think I did a video previously about Cassandra Clare's books, so you can check that out, but this is just the first series of many written by her set in that world. Okay, then we have Scarlet, which is book 2 of the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. The first book is Cinder, and these books are futuristic sci-fi retellings of classic fairy tales. So this one, of course, is about Little Red Riding Hood. It's kind of my favorite, I think, in the series. And the werewolves in this series, they're not technically werewolves. They are humans who have been genetically modified with I think wolf DNA and other stuff. I don't know, it's been a while since I read this, but they're kind of human wolf hybrids, and yeah, it's really good. And by the way, this is our Spanish edition because our English edition is checked out right now. So if you didn't know, we have books in Spanish in our collection. Okay, then we have Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first book in the Wolves of Mercy Falls series, and I talked about this book series earlier this summer. I did a video just about Maggie Stiefvater books, but This is another kind of like not typical werewolf story, which I really like, because in this the werewolves shift from human to wolf based on the outside temperature. So once it starts getting cold, they start shifting, and once winter has like fully set in, they stay in their wolf form until spring when it starts getting warmer. This book is about Grace. She's a human girl who has had an encounter with werewolves when she's younger and has just been really fascinated with them. She had an encounter with werewolves, but she thought they were just like regular wolves. She learns differently in this book. And then Sam is the werewolf who has kind of been like watching over her since she was a child. And this is about them meeting as humans one summer and what happens after that. FYI, they are the same age, so I said like he's been watching over her since she was a child, and yeah, they're basically the same age. It's not creepy. Okay, so then graphic novels. We have the Mortal Instruments graphic novels, which is just a graphic novel adaptation of the books. I really like them. The art is by Cassandra Jean, who does a lot of official art for Cassandra Clare, including these graphic novels. So check these out. We have Mooncakes. This one is really lovely. The two main characters are a witch and a werewolf, and I believe the werewolf is a non-binary. And it's just really nice. There's like diverse representation, there's LGBTQ representation, disability representation, so it's, I highly recommend this one. We have Moonstruck. So this is the first in a graphic novel series. I believe there's 3 out now, and you've got werewolf main characters, and yeah, basically this is set kind of like in a fantasy world where like everyone is some kind of, you know, supernatural creature. I'm trying to find a picture. Like one of the baristas is like a centaur. So yeah, it's great. It's just kind of cute, fun. If you like coffee shop AUs, check this out. Then we have Wires and Nerves. So this is set in the Lunar Chronicles world. This is set kind of after the series. So like the series is 4 books, and this is set after, and it follows one of the characters, Aiko, who is an android. And let me just read you what summary says. Okay. In her first graphic novel, Marissa Meyer extends the world of the Lunar Chronicles with a brand new action-packed story about Aiko, the android with a heart of mechanized gold. When rogue packs of wolf hybrid soldiers threaten the tenuous peace alliance between Earth and Luna, Aiko takes it upon herself to hunt down the soldiers' leader. She is soon working with a handsome royal guard who forces her to question everything she knows about love, loyalty, and her own humanity. With appearances by Cinder, Cress, Scarlet, Winter, and the rest of the Rampion crew, this is a must-have for fans of the best-selling series. So good. Okay, now we're going to get into books you might not have heard of. First off is Hold Me Closer, Necromancer. I haven't read this in a minute, but I remember when I first read it, I thought it was great, and it kind of became one of my favorite YA books, so I should definitely reread it at some point. There are 2 books in this series. So, meet Sam, just your average guy rocking that fast food career. Enter Douglas, a powerful and violent necromancer. Douglas immediately recognizes Sam as a fellow necromancer, which is news to Sam, and he's none too happy to have a competitor in the crowded paranormal scene in Seattle. Now Sam has an undead friend on his hands and a hot werewolf girl for company. With just 1 week to find a way out of Douglas's Douglas's clutches, can Sam figure out how to use his mysteriously latent powers? So yes, there are werewolves in this, and I think that what I really loved about it is it's just really funny. So if you want a humorous book with like kind of some, fantasy horror elements, check this out. Okay, I have not read this, but when I was looking for werewolf books in our collection, this came up. So this is Red Rider's Hood by Neal Shusterman, and it's kind of a Red Riding Hood retelling. So Red rides around his tough urban neighborhood in his blood-red Mustang. It satisfies his urge to wander, and it usually keeps him safe from the gangs in town, the wolves and the Crips. But when Red's grandmother is mugged by the wolves, Red decides to join the wolves as a pledge so he can learn how to defeat them. Soon he uncovers their terrible secret. They are werewolves with a thirst for human blood. Instead of feeling horrified, Red envies the wolves' freedom and power. Even as he trains to kill them, under an unlikely but cunning werewolf hunter, he has come to see them as packmates, until he is faced with a choice at the next full moon: take up the wolves' murderous ways or take them down. So, I think that sounds good, and it's like really short, so there you go. Alright, we have Out of Salem. I think I've talked about this one before in a previous video. It says at the top, the best teen, zombie, witchy, werewolf, fairy, fantasy, murder mystery you've ever read. Covers it all. Alright, so genderqueer 14-year-old Z Chilworth has to adjust quickly to their new status as a zombie after waking from death after a car crash that killed their parents and sisters. Always a talented witch, Z now can barely perform magic and is rapidly decaying. Faced with rejection from their remaining family members and old friends, Z moves in with their mother's friend, Mrs. Dunnigan, and befriends Aisel, a loud would-be goth classmate who is, like Z, a loner. As Z struggles to find a way to repair the broken magical seal holding their body together, Aisel fears that her classmates will discover her status as an unregistered werewolf. When a local psychiatrist is murdered by what seem to be werewolves, the town of Salem, Oregon becomes even more hostile to monsters, and Z and Aisel are driven together in an attempt to survive a place where most people wish that neither of them existed. So I really like this one, and I did kind of forget that in this world, people do know about the existence of like werewolves and other creatures, but it's like kind of a hostile situation towards them. And I also believe that this one is set in either the 90s or the early 2000s. There's something here that says 1996. So it's not like present day, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah. Okay, this one I have not read. It is called Haven by Mary Lindsey. Okay. Rain Ryland has never belonged anywhere. He's used to people judging him for his rough background, his intimidating size, and now his orphan status. He's always been on the outside looking in, and he's fine with that until he moves to New Wurzburg and meets Frederick Burkhardt. Freddie isn't like normal teen girls, though, and someone wants her dead for it. Freddie warns he'd better stay far away if he wants to stay alive, but Rain's never been good at running from trouble. For the first time, Rain has something worth fighting for, worth living for, worth dying for. And then on the back it says, I guess kind of like an excerpt from the book. While having witnessed whatever he'd witnessed, her changing into something else had shaken him. Deep down, Rain couldn't say he was surprised. Something in him knew. Something in him liked it. So, like I said, I haven't read this, but I've been reliably informed that werewolves are a thing. And now I kind of feel like I need to read it. Alright, our last book is Lobizona by Romina Garber. And this is one I'm actually listening to right now on Hoopla. This is the first book in the Wolves of No World series. So we have the first and second book in our collection, and I love this cover so much. Okay. Manuela Azul has been crammed into an existence that feels too small for her. As an undocumented immigrant who's on the run from her father's Argentinian crime family, Manu is confined to a small apartment in a small life in Miami, Florida. Until Manu's protective bubble is popped, her surrogate grandmother is attacked, lifelong lies are exposed, and her mother is arrested by ICE. Without a home, without answers, and finally without shackles, Manu investigates the only clue she has about her past, a mysterious Z emblem, which leads her to a secret world buried within our own. A world connected to her dead father and his criminal past. A world straight out of Argentinian folklore, where the 7th consecutive daughter is born a bruja, a witch, and the 7th consecutive son is a lobizon, a werewolf. A world where her unusual eyes allow her to belong. As Manu uncovers her own story and traces her real heritage all the way back to a cursed city in Argentina, she learns it's not just her U.S. residency that's illegal, it's her entire existence. So I am like a little over halfway into the book, and it's really good. And I have a feeling there's a plot twist coming along, so I'm excited for when that's going to happen. And yeah, so it's witches and werewolves, and they are kind of training in the Florida Everglades secretly, and I am really excited to see what happens next. Okay, those are my werewolf book recommendations. Of course, this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more books out there that deal with werewolves. Probably some in our collection that I overlooked, especially like if they're ones where, I kind of think about the show Supernatural, where it's like Sam and Dean are fighting new things every week, and so there are werewolves in the show, but it's not like werewolf main characters. So there might be books like that, kind of like Monster Hunter books, but I usually prefer books where like werewolves, not necessarily that they're the good people or whatever, but that they, are not the villains. What can I say? I have a soft spot for werewolves. All right, y'all. I will see you next time. Bye.